I have to refer to the fact that the Syrian government was the one who initiated this whole process when it requested from the Secretary General to formulate an investigation mission in the alleged use of chemical weapons in Khan al-Assal in Aleppo, only hours after this incident, this horrible, appalling incident has occurred. However, this Syrian initiative, as you know, has been under a lot of attacks to undermine it by distracting it from its main purpose. We are sure that Ms. Kane and Dr. Sellström will have constructive negotiations with the Syrian officials in order to reach an agreement, a mutual agreement, on the term of reference, mechanism, and time frame of the mission. I have informed the Secretary General this morning about the Syrian government decision, and the Secretary General will issue a statement later on with this regard. I also informed the office of Mrs. Angela Kane about it, and both of them, the Secretary General as well as Mrs. Kane, have welcomed this very important development emanating from the Syrian government today in Damascus. Any questions?
Ambassador,
is the invitation?
thank you very much. Is the assumption on your letter that you will give unfettered access, which is what Angela Kane had asked for, and to all sites as far as you're concerned, that they have requested?
Our consultations with the Secretary General and Mrs. Kane have never stopped. We have been engaged in continuous, unhindered, unfettered negotiations and consultations with both of them. We have always been open towards achieving a kind of progress with this regard. I wouldn't anticipate on the outcome. The instructions I have received from the capital indicate that the invitation addressed to both Ms. Kane and Professor Sellström is about having them in Damascus, inviting them to Damascus to discuss further the mechanism and the terms of reference of the mission. Yes.
Oh, sure. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I wanted to actually ask you about this election that took place on Saturday of the Syrian opposition. They elected this guy, Ahmed Asi al-Jarba. What's your view of that election?
Can we please first focus on the issue of the press conference first, and then we will shift to the other points.
What has changed on the ground that allows you to extend the invitation now?
We have, as you know, kept asking the Secretary General to send Dr. Sellström and his team from the beginning, since the tragic incident had occurred in Khan al-Assal on March the 19th. And as I have just indicated, the day after, actually hours after the incident took place, the Syrian government requested the Secretary General to send a team of investigation. So we haven't changed our mind. We are still keeping our decision open towards receiving Dr. Sellström and Ms. Angela Kane to go to Damascus and to discuss further how we can establish a bridge of trust and confidence with regard the fulfilling of the Syrian government's request.
Ambassador, at what level would these talks take place? With the foreign ministry, with the president? At what level?
Foreign ministry, and the specialized, adequate, high-level officials in Damascus, the competent experts with this regard.
With chemical weapons?
Of course.
Ambassador, would these talks be limited only to the specific instance that your government has raised, or would other governments' concerns about other incidents?
We are here talking only about the agreement that we are intending to reach with the Secretary General, because the Secretary General was the one who established the team. So we deal with the Secretary General. I would like to draw your kind attention to a couple facts with this regard. Number one, the Syrian authorities have discovered yesterday in the city of Banyas 281 barrels filled with dangerous, hazardous chemical materials. 79 barrels of the polyethylene glycol, 67 barrels of the 25 barrels of the monoethanol, and 68 barrels of the diethanol amine, and 42 barrels triethanol amine, which makes the total 281 barrels capable of destroying a whole city, if not a whole country. And the investigation is still undergoing with this regard. The materials, these very hazardous chemical materials, were found in a secret storage controlled and monitored by the armed terrorist groups. Number two, you may all remember.
Excellency, what's the name of that city?
Of?
The name of that city?
The city Banyas, on the coastal area, on the Mediterranean. The second point is that, as you may remember also, the Turkish authorities unexpectedly announced, I would say 2 weeks ago, that they have arrested 12 terrorists belonging to Jabhat al-Nusra and Al-Qaeda, carrying on with them 2 kilograms of the sarin, the gas. And these terrorists were coming from Libya, and they had the gas sarin on board of the civilian airlines that transported them from Libya to Turkey. The guys were arrested by the Turkish authorities for some reason, and the news is there. Of course, we haven't heard too much comments on this very important development. We leave it in the hands of Mr. Sellström and the Secretary General and Ms. Kane, of course. The third element would go for this very important documentation brought to the public opinion by the Russian journalist, Ms. Popova, who did an excellent job in Khan al-Assal and documented what happened and handed over the outcome of what she did to the office of the Secretary General, as well as to Professor Sellström. Something that should be studied, examined very carefully, because it's a documented work done at a very early hour of the incident, which means that here the Russian journalists had respected what we call, scientifically speaking, the chain of custody of the materials. So this is very important also to take into consideration. The third element would be what the Russian president had announced, also lately speaking, about reports emanating from Iraq, where Al-Qaeda and Jabhat al-Nusra have a secret laboratory for the production of chemical weapons within the Iraqi territory. So we have a huge arsenal of information, important information, that should be taken into consideration by the team of investigation.
On the Popova video, has Ms. Kane explained to her, she'd said earlier that somehow she couldn't handle it technically and pass it on to Mr. Sellström. Where does it stand with Ms. Popova's evidence that she gave to Angela Kane?
We and others have forwarded to Mrs. Kane and the Secretary General, of course, as well as to other specialized bodies within the United Nations, many information and many reports and many documents related to what happened in Khan al-Assal, as well as elsewhere. We did it at a very early stage, if you remember, last December, actually, to be honest with you. Last December, I sent on behalf of my government an official letter to the Security Council members as well as to the Secretary General, informing them with a video about the secret laboratory established within the Turkish territory next to the Syrian-Turkish border, where these terrorist groups tested a secret chemical tests against the rabbits, the issue of the rabbits. And the video was there, and we informed everybody about it. So that was the first indication about the involvement of these terrorist groups into the preparation of some kind of chemical attacks later on against civilian or military areas. Now, there has been accumulation of materials here and there, and all of that should be taken very seriously into consideration.
Ambassador, you said there's 281 barrels of chemical materials you've confiscated, I guess. Do you have it, does the government have it securely stored now? Are you confident that it's safe to be put away? And will you be showing this store of chemicals
I guess so.
to Mrs. Kane?
I guess so, yeah, I guess so. The discovery happened just today, yesterday evening. So, of course, we will share all this information with the team.
Mr. Ambassador, would your government be receptive to a Ramadan ceasefire with the rebel movement?
We need a full end of violence, not a partial one. The Syrian people would need a full end of violence all over the country, and an abrupt and prompt engagement of the opposition into the peace process, and to declare first their willingness to attend the Geneva conference based on the Russian, American, and the United Nations understanding.
Mr. Ambassador, I was wondering if you could clarify one thing which I'm not quite sure I understood. When you were inviting Mr. Selstrom and Ms. Kane to come to Damascus, was this to talk about the Secretary General's overall request, which was for a broader investigation than just the Khan al-Assal incident, or was it only to talk about the modalities of investigating the Khan al-Assal incident?
I know that you have arrived.
No, I was listening upstairs.
You were listening. Thank you very much. I'm saying this because I already approached and addressed this issue before you came. What we are saying is that we are not here to anticipate. The Secretary General knows very well the Syrian government's position. We, the Syrian government position, we know very well the Secretary General position. We requested from him to investigate something that happened, concretely speaking, in Khan al-Assal. He has different allegations emanating from some other delegations in the United Nations, other countries. So we are not here going to anticipate. All what we are saying here is that we, as an outcome of this very long process of discussion and negotiations between us and the Secretary General, we decided to invite Dr. Selstrom and Mrs. Kane to go to Damascus to discuss further the mechanism of the work of the team, as well as the terms of reference to fulfill that mission. So this is exactly the purpose of the invitation.
So would I be right in saying that the Syrian government is now open to considering the investigation of other allegations than Khan al-Assal?
No, you wouldn't jump to this conclusion. Otherwise, there is no need for them to go to Damascus. If you find out the necessary response, then we will not invite them. all these details are the main object of the visit. This very important issue of investigating what happened in Khan al-Asal and the use of chemical weapons in general should be discussed in Damascus with these two competent and qualified persons representing the Secretary General. The issue is to discuss further the mechanism and the terms of reference to fulfill this mission. Thank you very much.
What about humanitarian access to homes? The UN had been asking for humanitarian access to homes.
The Red Cross is operating in Homs with the collaboration of the Syrian Red Crescent, and the humanitarian convoys are underway over there. Thank you.